Okay, so we have our main causes, but none of those really matter to the US because we are so far away from Europe. We are staying out of it. We are isolated. We are the good guys. And so we're just kind of letting them do their thing over there. And Wilson is going to really embrace this idea of isolationism and neutrality. We are going to stay out of the war. In fact, President Wilson is going to run his reelection campaign on the concept that he kept us out of war. And that's going to get people to vote for him for a second time around. But the second time around, it doesn't go so great because along with all of this new technology, the Germans have created a brand new technology called the Unterseeboot, or the U-boat, or the submarine. You like that German accent? So, the Germans have come up with this boat that can go underwater, and it is undetected underwater because it's underwater and we don't have radar yet because we didn't know we needed radar because we didn't know submarines existed. And they are using these Unterseeboots to shoot ships in the Atlantic. And they don't really care what ship they're shooting. It's fair game to them, especially if you're near the UK because Britain is involved in the war. So if you're going to be in the Atlantic Ocean, you better watch out. You might get shot down by a German U-boat and that's on you. It's not their fault. Sorry. Rules of warfare, you know? Now, a lot of people find this very unfitting because the old rules of warfare were that you fought face to face. You didn't fight undersea. You didn't fight. That was cowardly. But we're going to change war forever with World War One. And so President Wilson, who really kept us out of war, is going to be president again. And at the same time, the U.S. British liner ship, the Lusitania, is sunk by German submarines. And people are pretty upset about this because there are some American passengers on that ship. And they say that this sinking was uncalled for. The Germans attacked a British steamship, was uncalled for. They should have left it alone, but little did the American people know that the Lusitania was also transporting military weapons. So from the US. So maybe the Germans did have a reason to sink it after all. Whether or not they knew that, the sinking of the Lusitania and this loss of American lives, I want to say about 250 Americans died during this sinking, is a good enough reason for President Wilson to ask Congress to declare war. Now, if you remember back in the Mexico Revolution there, we had an issue with Mexico in 1917, and Wilson pulled his troops out of Mexico, and we were like, why would he do that? We also, at the same time, roughly, as this sinking, we get news that a German ambassador, I'm not sure if he was an ambassador, but a high-ranking German has sent a letter to Mexico. Called the Zimmerman telegram. Telegraph? Zimmerman note? Zimmerman is the important part there. He had sent a letter or a note or a telegram or a telegraph or whatever you want to call it to Mexico saying that if Mexico invaded the United States and declared war on America, that Germany would ally with Mexico. And this telegram leaks. And so the US gets word that Germany is willing to ally with Mexico, which may play a role in why President Wilson pulls his troops out of Mexico, because maybe we don't want Germany allying with Mexico because that might not go well for us. And so between the sinking and the Zimmerman note, the U.S. decides it is time for us to get involved in World War I. We are going to be the heroes. Yes, it is 1917. The war's been going on for 3 years, but we are going to come in and we are going to save the day. We are the best. And so we start to send our men over to Europe to go fight. And we are going to convince people that the Germans are the enemies and that it is our duty to save the world for democracy. That's our catchline. We're saving the world for democracy. We have propaganda about it, we have music about it. World War I is our first propaganda war, really. It's where we get our Uncle Sam, I Want You poster. We get all sorts of propaganda poster here where they are leaning on the male ego to join the war. It's your job to join the war. And if you're not a man, your job as a woman is to either work the jobs that the men left behind or to buy the Liberty bonds to support the government to pay for the supplies that we need. Everybody has to do their part. And we, as Americans, as the last free nation, are going to go over there and save the day. We even have a song about it, which I am going to attempt to find. I don't know if it will play, but we are going to attempt it. Don't worry, we'll listen to that song in class. You'll get the real vibes. But that song really sums it up. I don't know how clear it is, but the lyrics are the Yanks send the word to beware. The Yanks are coming. We're coming. And we really do have this heightened idea that we are going to save the world. And yes, we do help end the war, but it's not necessarily because we're better. It's just that we haven't spent 3 years fighting. And we have men that we can send, and other places have lost all of their men. And I do not mean that as a joke. There are places, entire towns, that lost men during World War I, and the women and children left because all of the men died, and they had to move and find a new place to live. World War I is a devastating war. It is, again, it changes everything. All of this new technology, it's the first time we get this concept of what is now PTSD, but was then just called shell shock, and we didn't know how to deal with it. We have men that come home missing limbs, missing facial features, exposed to poison gas. If they are lucky to survive at all, a lot of people watch their friends die right beside them. It's a war that nobody had ever seen before. It's a war that was supposed to end all wars. The whole point of World War I, the whole point of saving the world for democracy was that this was the only war there was ever going to be. And there's not a lot going on the home front during World War I, not the way there is during World War II. Not that there's not a lot going on, but it's the things that we've already talked about. We've got all these reforms and the push for women's rights and African American rights and all this stuff, while we're also sending all of our young men to go fight in this war. And again, Wilson was reelected on the concept that he had kept us out of war, and now we're in war and we're watching our young men die, and they're coming back different. And it's going to be a really tough situation there. So when the war is over, things are going to change in America, and we're going to see a really big cultural shift. More so than we did with the Gilded Age and the Progressive Era. Now, if you really want to read about World War I, this used to be recommended or required reading, all quiet on the Western Front. I realize a lot of people don't read this anymore, but Netflix a few years ago made an amazing German version of this, which is fantastic, and I think it does a great job of showing how World War I really changes things, and it shows all the military and the weapons and all that stuff, and you should really, really watch it. we are going to move on to the end of World War I and see what is waiting for us in the next decade.